Okay, this is Josh Reynolds for UH Downtown BSW program. The class is Human Behavior in the Social Environment 2, and it's Spring 3, 2018. So this is a lecture specifically, it's a case study, and for summer of 2018, this is actually for your, it's actually for your second exam, which is could be more essay-based. So this will actually be the assignment that you reflect on and use that as a launching point when I give you the exam. If that's not the case, then if this case study actually goes well, then I'll use it for other classes too. But for that class, this is the assignment. All right, so we're going to talk about. So again, I'm going to upload this at the beginning of the summer semester, 2018, and I think in week 4, I think it is, the exam will be due. Having this will be about half an hour or so, maybe 20 minutes to half an hour, and then that'll be the launching point. That'll be kind of like your homework for your exam too. All right, so human behavior and social environment. We've talked about a lot of things by this point in the class, but the one thing I always come back to is our environments matter tremendously. And I know that seems like common sense, but the reason I was going to be a clinical psychologist, and I was set to go and get my PhD in that and all this stuff, but it didn't turn out, and I realized that in my life and the lives of people that I knew, it wasn't just who they were, the biological makeup and their DNA, and the choices they made, that kind of stuff. Their environments affected them a lot. So one thing that we talk about in class a lot is your family can either be really positive for you or really negative for you, or maybe somewhere in the middle. But if you've had a family that was really supportive, that's a blessing. And if you had a family that kind of drug you down, the crabs in the barrel thing, and that part of you just always loved and respected your family, but you wanted to get away too. So just thinking, and if that's not your situation, you obviously know someone whose situation that is. And so of course our environment matters, of course the politics of the day, and of course how diverse our communities are, and of course whether we have access to transportation, and our attitudes about each other and about our neighbors, whether we believe in neighbors, whether we just live in the suburbs and commute to work and kind of stay in our own bubble. All that stuff matters. Starting with family, but going as big as our national identity as a country, all that stuff impacts our lives every day. So social workers believe in something that's called the person in the environment theory. You've heard this before, and you'll hear this a bunch of other times. But all it really means is, unlike psychology, which says it's all in here, of course this is the most important thing, right? It's you. But your environment matters. So it's me, the person in my environment. It's you and your environment. Your geographic environment, your neighborhood or your house or your family, but also the people that you associate with and the places that you go and the groups that you're on. And even wanting to be a social worker, right? All that stuff matters tremendously in your life. So that's what this class is about. And this is a quick case study, it'll be quick from this point forward, about a group of women who, this is refugee work. This is a refugee serving. It was an organization, and now it's part of a larger organization. So it's not standalone anymore. That doesn't matter for the sake of this. This is the community cloth. It's a micro enterprise for refugees in Houston. And you may know that Houston is the largest refugee resettlement city in the nation. And the difference between someone who's a refugee, their status, and an immigrant, their status, is that refugees are sponsored by the State Department, the U.S. State Department, to come to the U.S. Legally because they have been victim of persecution in their home country. That's political persecution. It can be cultural persecution. It can be religious persecution. And it's almost always economic persecution. So what typically happens is there are wars all around the world, whether we call it that or not. And people who are in the smaller group, the minority or the less dominant group, it doesn't go, it's terrible. I mean, things are still really terrible out there, right? And so there are a lot of people, hundreds of thousands and even millions, that are driven from their homes every year because they were going to get, if they stayed, they were going to get killed and their land is taken and whatever else. And so the typical story of a community cloth client is a woman from Bhutan or Burma or maybe the Congo, who had to flee her home because of persecution with her family, and they would go to kind of flee to another country. So for Southeast Asia, a lot of people go to Thailand and they wait in these intern camps. And some of the women at Community Cloth, I should say, I used to volunteer there or with them. They are in these camps for 12, 15, up to 20 years. And only, I guess, less than 1% get sponsored by the State Department. I don't know what the new numbers are, but those were accurate as of a couple of years ago. Who knows what's going on with the federal government? They would wait 20 years in basically camps in a country that wasn't theirs, maybe around people whose languages they didn't speak, and they were just waiting for a 1% chance to come to America. So the refugees that are both kind of skilled and blessed enough or lucky enough to get that opportunity, they have terrible stories, and the acculturation process is not easy. The U.S. government offers 6 months of assistance, around 6 months of assistance for things like, getting the first apartment, help with financial assistance, help finding a job, a case manager to help with like transportation. But if you're moving from a country where you basically haven't lived in your home for years, maybe dozens of years, and you never had an American driver's license, you may not speak English. I don't speak Burmese, right? And you probably don't either. If you do, like, well, I only speak one language, and not that well actually. So someone may, a lot of these women may have spoken 3 or 4 languages, but English wasn't one of them. And so this is a huge adjustment. Plus the school system. Let's think about health insurance and healthcare. I don't understand it, and I'm I've been trained by the policy experts in this stuff, right? I've worked in it, and I still can't make sense of it. Imagine coming to another country, and so it takes much more than 6 months to make that adjustment. And economics are hard because there's not a lot of money. But what we found is this actually started, and we're going to show a video in a second that'll explain this. But it started as an ESL program for refugee women in Gulfton out of a couple classrooms. And after about a year, it was going really well. These were just volunteers, some of whom are in this book actually. And they said, okay, to the women they were helping kind of learn English and stuff. They said, all right, you're making a lot of progress. What do you want to do next? Like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? And what really surprised the founders of the community cloth was that they said, we want to be able to sell the stuff that we make because we need the income. It's what we do. And so everyone, regardless of what their education level was, or what kind of jobs they had in their country of origin or whatever, or if they had jobs outside the home, there are cultural things to that as well. They all sewed and knitted and fixed stuff and made jewelry, and usually sold it or used it to for themselves, their families, or whatever. And they wanted to do that here. They wanted to make things like these scarves and pillows and baby, all sorts of stuff like this, and sell it. It's a brilliant idea, but they lack the capital, the money, because you have to buy equipment to make stuff, right? And you have to buy the supplies for it, but also how to target, American audience, where to sell it, all that stuff. And a lot of these women they're just learning English, right? So let alone the confidence to be able to do this. So the program started by that, and so what the community cloth is it's a micro enterprise for refugee women from 7 or 8 countries around the world. Some of them I mentioned earlier, who came here because of political, economic, and religious persecution, and they started a new life, and these are the happiest, most industrious people you'd ever meet in your life, right? And so the community cloth still helps them with seed money. So getting, if it takes $50 or $100 for materials, that may not be a lot of money, but if you don't have it, you don't have it, right? And that's money for your family. That's food money, the rent money, whatever, right? That's money for your utility bills. So it's a grant, and women pay back with product, which is it's an interesting kind of micro bartering system, which I don't need to nerd out about. So money, first of all, because these are like small independent entrepreneurs, right? So like it takes money to start it takes money to start a business, right? So that's number one. Number two, it was access to the markets, and so where do people buy stuff, and what kind of events would this? And so like World Refugee Day, or at health fairs, or they were even able to get in some stores like the Houston Natural Science and a few other places would carry a line of product, that kind of stuff. So the program helped them sell it. But also understanding how to craft these materials so they would be attractive to the American audience, what was in style, what was in fashion, and how to kind of merge the cultural heritage, which was important to share through the stuff, with the stuff that was marketable to folks who could buy a $40 or $50 scarf. And these were starting to be priced at $20 or $25, but now they're all priced at $40, $50, $60, plus, except unless they're being liquidated or whatever. And so the women are making a lot more money even on individual products. They're making them, making each scarf faster, for example, and it's better quality, and it looks great, and it's selling for twice of what it would have been selling for a few years ago. that's how a business grows, right? It's incredible. Plus, there have also been a number of opportunities to help women keep learning English. Also, bring in like financial educators to learn how to budget or basic business plan. And a lot of these women have gone on to. A lot are still with the program after years, and they just love to do it. Some doing it part time, you know, or less because they have a job or family commitments. Some have been able to send their kids to college, which was obviously a dream. Some have been able to buy houses. A few have even started their own businesses. And kind of full, you know, shops, you know, like full stores. So that's a wonderful thing. But when you think about the human behavior in the social environment, you think about cultures that you may not be that familiar with. And a lot of us, I wasn't that familiar with. So I'd encourage you, I'm going to show you a video now, but I encourage you to, and then we'll talk about it for about 5 minutes after we're done. I'd encourage you to go to thecommunitycloth.org and look around. This is not part of the assignment. Well, you know what? It is, because you're not going to be able to do it without knowing more. So you can actually shop and buy stuff, and I won't give you extra credit for that. But like if you like even start thinking about Christmas stuff, I've done very well getting some of these things for Christmas for people. So you can see there's scarves here. There's my little plug for the comic side. I'm not involved anymore at all, but you might be interested in the blankets or the throws, or I don't even know half this. You know, I'm a guy. Children's stuff, super cute. Like, look at these kids' hats, right? I actually have my kids have a couple of these. So there's all sorts of stuff. And it's not just seasonal stuff. There's kitchen stuff and things like that are year-round items. And so about the artisans, you kind of get to know more. These are wonderful things. You should really check these out. And you can also see why, as you kind of get into my program, my class in the future, marketing is super important, because look how nice this looks, and it looks professional, and it always was. But this is really, you know, we really had staff work on this over the last couple of years, staff and volunteers. Events coming up, all that kind of stuff, whatever, right? So you get the hint. But there are a lot of kind of testimonials and videos, and so here's the video this is on YouTube, and I'll give you the title just so you have it. It's just called About the Community Cloth. It's published by the Community Cloth, all one word. Okay. So there's your citation, right? All right. So we'll watch this for about 4 minutes, and then I'll give you a couple things to think about. Then you'll have the information you need for the assignment. Awesome. You know, I haven't checked this before, of course. All right.
How you doing on Monday? How do you do that? Yes, strong. My name is Purmanga. I'm from Bhutan. In Bhutan, they categorize as a category 1, category 2, like a different caste. Category 1 is good for living in Bhutan, and 2, 3, 4, 5, they have to leave Bhutan.
All right, I'm still here, but that way you can see the whole
Bhutan,
screen.
and we stay in Nepal 20 years as a refugee. You know, and so the more we help people understand, the more we can improve the situation. Do you like puzzle? One for everybody. What's that? He loves you. Yeah. So Community Cloth is a micro-enterprise initiative to empower refugee artisans that live right here in Houston. Houston is one of the busiest resettlement cities in the United States for refugees. So we work with women from Burma, Bhutan, Iraq, Sudan, Afghanistan, and the Congo. It really began by us working with the refugee artisans, and then them coming to us and saying they wanted an opportunity to take their products to market, and they did not want a handout or anything from us. Community club helped me for money helped me for many things, to buy many things. Yeah. So you know how to make that type of clothes. But yarn should be thin. We involved with many friends we know everybody, and we got a financial support. We made some of the hairs, and we sold, and we get money. It helped us to buy something for my home needs. At Community Club, we really believe if you invest in the women, you can help change the trajectory of the entire family. Earning that supplemental income and being able to support your family, that's a really big deal. Sometimes the women that we work with have never earned income before, or have earned something like $1 a day. That gives them that confidence. They're making new friends. They're reaching out to different parts of Houston they haven't seen before. When Nepal, I cannot talk English, and when I can join the community club, I can talk English more. Other people, I can talk. Maybe Roxanne, Nikki, they talk English. I can also talk English. I think one of my favorite things about the program is that we're focusing on the strengths of the women, what they can already do. So we have women that knit, crochet, sew, make jewelry, and weave. So this is a skill set that they already have. This is monkey. It's only 3 I can make. About my children, I want to give them a good life. I want to make them a big people, reading more. But I don't know how can I do. I don't know how to say.
All right. Come on, Zoom. All right, hold on 1 second. Let me do it here then. Whatever, we'll just leave it like that. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to think about is one of the last questions that was asked. We didn't actually hear the question, we just heard the response. And what we heard was that one of the artisans was being asked about her children and kind of her hopes and dreams for the future for them, that kind of stuff. And if you're a parent, you know that this is the most powerful urge or instinct of someone who has kids in the world, right? Or for a lot of us. So kind of what drives people. So when you think about human behavior in the social environment, you're always asking yourself, what is this person's background? What's their history? What's their experience? So you take someone who's from Bhutan, and how do they grow up and what language do they speak and what was their culture like, culture of origin. Of course that's our parents influence us, our culture, of course it does. I've lived in like 7 or 8 states, so I can say like cultures are different everywhere. But even if you've only lived in Houston, you know that people coming from different places, we think and act and talk differently. Of course we do, right? And it's not just act and talk, but it's think differently too. Not everyone thinks like you do or like I do, obviously. And so empathetic communication means really thinking about where is that person starting from? Like what's their background? Kind of how did they grow up? Just think about like how did you grow up and why was that so important to you, right? And like what were really some of the formative experiences of your life when you were 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, whatever age, kind of as you were growing up. Things happened, and that kind of shaped who you were, and also your kind of the way what you were taught to do, what was acceptable and not, how often to speak up, what kind of language you could use, who you could talk to, kind of what your dreams could be for the future. All that stuff is influenced by your culture, right? And it's different for men and women. It's different for all sorts of different races and ethnicities, and it's certainly different for different continents, right? And so imagine growing up in Bhutan or Burma and having the childhood that you had, and getting through that, and then as an adult having to leave that home and come here and spend all that time. And so what type of person, of course that shapes you. And even the scars, that we have, whether they're physical or otherwise, they really influence who you are. So the smartest thing so here's a little tip for the people, right? the smartest thing that community clock did was, instead of assuming for the artists, the women, all women, the artisans, what they needed, of course they need better English skills, and of course they may need a GED or some sort of an associate's degree to have a job that kind of makes enough. And of course, like income's a problem, of course transportation, and of course there are mental health challenges. There's a lot of trauma, right? There's a lot of trauma. But what we need is less important than what we want, because that's what we act on, right? I need to lose 30 pounds, but I really want the zone, and I might get one after I'm done with this, or like some ice cream or something, right? Because I need to have a dinner. I need to probably skip that and just like work out twice tomorrow. But think about what you want to need, and we do things that we need sometimes, but we really want to do what we want to do, right? And so if that's the case, when you ask someone what they want, when you ask a client what they want, then their answers change from, oh, but like wanting is aspirational. I want to see my kids go to college, right? I want my kids to have a better life. I want to go back to college myself. I want to buy a car one day. I want to buy a house one day. I want to start my own business one day. You know, I want to get married and I want to move to the country, you know, and like have some land or whatever. Whatever your dreams are, right? Whatever their dreams are, if you ask them what they want, by working towards those goals, it's kind of meeting their needs as well. So if someone says, I want to buy a house one day, it means to do that, we have to start budgeting now. We have to start tracking our expenses, probably eat out less at restaurants, or at least be more mindful about how we're eating out, right? That's what financial education is. It's really simple on paper, right? Just like cut out the stuff that you don't absolutely need. But we buy things based on wants. If our kids are like hangry, then we'll stop at a gas station and buy them like $5 of stuff every day, which isn't a lot, but it adds up, right? And a Starbucks every day will be like your entire education in 10 years, what you paid for your bachelor's degree. So all that to say, because people go with wants and not needs, how they grew up in the environment that they came from is even more important. And so what the community clock did that was really smart at the very start of it, they didn't ask people what they needed, right? They asked the people that were working with ESL, what do you want? And what they wanted was a part of their past, which was their cultural heritage. Who do you think taught them how to knit and sew and all this stuff? It was their parents or their grandparents or someone before them. That was part of their cultural origin. They're passing it down. So this is important culturally, not just economically or financially. It's not just money, it's cultural expression, right? And so because of that, they're also able to make good money. And when I kind of had become less involved, we had made they had made for themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars. Almost all of it that went back to the artists, and the program overhead costs were very, very low. And for a long time, that wasn't even charged at all, but you have to have some staff, because you want to get paid as a social worker too, right? But almost all that money went back to the women. They made hundreds of thousands of dollars. They also expressed their cultural heritage, the need and the want, right? And so when you think about, again, serving clients either on a micro level, meso, or macro, it really doesn't matter. Think about who are the folks that I'm hoping to work with, and what are they getting out of it? Not just what they need, but what do they want, and what are the things that influence them? You know, so I'll say, you know, some of us growing up thinking about ourselves, and then we're done. We're encouraged to speak out, to express ourselves, to dream big. And others of us were expected to take care of our families and to not say much and to kind of be seen and not heard. There's a gender component to that. There's a racial and ethnic component. There's a cultural component to that as well. But it's true. One of those things is true for all of us at some point, right? And that influenced you. And depending on how your parents model and your grandparents model things, you either ran towards that because you thought they were good parents or grandparents, or you ran away from that because you thought they were lacking in a lot of areas, right? I ran away from mine for a long time. So your past does shape you. And so when you think about the human behavior and the context of the environment, it's not just the current environment, it's the past environment as well. And also what they hope for the future. But it's especially that past component that determines a lot of who we are. We make our own choices, but there's a determinant as well. So so think about the community clock, maybe watch that video one more time, less of me talking, but more of the artisans talking with their own story. And then you'll get the assignment soon. All right, that's the case study. See y'all later.